Today we're going to talk about the process of employee selection. How do we select the one worker that we're going to hire from a pool of job applicants? We're going to use a conjunctive decision-making model. We're going to set up some multiple hurdles that progressively thin out the field until by process of elimination we end up with the one most appropriate worker for the particular position in question. So the first thing we look at would be the applications. We look at the bio data that we have available to us. By looking at the standardized application forms, the resumes, the CVs, whatever you want to call them, and we're going to be eliminating those individuals who lack some of the essential criteria for employment in this field. In some careers, a certain kind of license or professional status is required. In most positions, there's a certain educational requirement and or a certain requirement of job experience. People lacking these things on the application forms can be eliminated at the beginning without investing any further time or energy in their selection process. Then we can take those individuals who passed our preliminary screening of the applications and perhaps subject them to further paper and pencil testing. Testing for such things as their abilities, their aptitudes, or their personality and interests, so that we can profile who it is exactly we want in this kind of position. And we can eliminate those individuals who lack the right aptitudes, and we can also eliminate those individuals who lack the kind of personality that we are looking for. Next, we will take a look at some interviews, and this might be one or two different interviews in a series, and we're going to be looking to eliminate those individuals who lack certain interpersonal skills or who, on the basis of the probing of the interview, are found to have certain fatal flaws. And then we can take our last individual who looks to be best on the basis of the interviews and subject that individual to a series of background and reference checks, once again to see if there are any fatal flaws with that individual. So this is sort of the process involved, ATIR. We start off with the cheapest kind of selection procedure, looking at the applications. Then we move to the more expensive techniques of giving people a battery of tests, giving them interviews with one or more of our company's executives or personnel officers, and then doing an extensive background investigation. For example, if we're going to hire one worker and we start off with 100 different applications, we look at 100 applications, but the more expensive procedures will look at fewer and fewer individuals. We may select about 20 for our testing, and on the basis of our testing we narrow it down to perhaps 5 individuals coming in for interviews, and maybe then 1 individual for a thorough background check. The analogy might be something like a funnel. A lot of people go into the application procedure and only 1 person comes out as our best choice. Some of the problems that we have to be aware of in the selection procedure would be both false positives and false negatives. What we're doing here is we're looking at our predictor variables, how people score on a test or an interview, how they look on a job application or in a reference check. The person either looks like a good candidate for the job or looks like a bad candidate. Our criterion variable, which we're only going to know maybe a year or 2 down the line after the person's been working on the job and we can evaluate that worker's performance, is the worker a good fit on the job, or is the worker actually a bad performer? Well, if the worker looks good according to our predictor variable and actually turns out to be a good worker, we've made the right decision accepting the person. If the worker looks bad on paper and actually turns out to be bad in the workplace, again, rejection would have been the right decision. The errors come when a person looks good on paper but actually would perform badly on the job. This would be a false positive. Or whether the person looks bad on paper but really could do the job rather well. The decision we have to make in how we use these predictors is whether we are more concerned with false positives or false negatives. If we've got a lot of applicants, we should be more worried about the false positives. It doesn't matter if a few good people don't get hired. There are enough people out there. Well, let's take a look at how this might work using this example. Imagine that each of these circles is a candidate for a job. Now, some of these people didn't fill out their application right. We can eliminate them. Now, some of the people, on the basis of the application, are simply too small in their skill set or their education, as indicated by lack of experience. And we're going to eliminate them and not give them further testing. Now, these are the individuals that we're going to test out. That person passes the test. That one doesn't. That one doesn't. That one passes. That one passes. That one passes. Okay, let's bring them all into an interview and see how they do. Yeah, these two, they don't pass the interview. Now, let's suppose both of these are sent for a background check. Oh, this one didn't pass the reference. Ah, here's our candidate. He has passed all of the tests. This is the one that we're going to hire. Okay, that's how it works. Any questions or comments? Email me, brink@usa.com.